I am sitting here with Brian Wang, and I have a subject matter today. We'll talk about a few things, but I got something that's just come up in the last little while that I just have to talk about. Okay, so let me tell you, Brian, here's what it was. I've got some guy came on this morning, goes, "Hey, if you're not doing this in order to make decisions about companies to invest in, I'm just going to give you the prompt." And here's a prompt you can use, and it's going to just go in, and it would be the equivalent of what you would get from Goldman Sachs or anybody else with thousands of hours of expert research. And so I took this prompt and I plugged it into ChatGPT and I plugged it into Optimus, to Grok. And I got very much the same answer from both. And of course, I did it on Tesla, but it really opened my eyes to some things, Brian. It opened my eyes to the continuing need for humans.
Mhm.
I was listening to another Diamandis, his WTF podcast this morning, actually. And one of their guests this morning, I have no idea, his name is unpronounceable. I can't remember what it was. Anyway, and he was saying that we really don't have end-to-end neural networking except on cars. That's the only place that we really have end-to-end. What we really have is middle to middle. And he
Mhm.
said the thing that we need are great prompts, and that's the beginning. Of course, and then he says we need this ability to be able to read what the thing produces and know whether it's true or not.
Mhm.
So this is a great experiment in that. So here's what I got. I know this is a long introduction. You'll get to talk someday. So ChatGPT said, I just took the catalyst watch from both of these responses. I didn't take all the details about the company's, cash flow and all that, but it gave everything. It was a really good result. It was really quite a nice result. But I just took the catalyst watch, and it says the near-term catalysts for Tesla would be the Q3 earnings report expected in October, and the market reaction to updates on autonomous robotaxi progress and margins. And long-term, the broader rollout and monetization of full self-driving and the expansion into emerging markets like another India showroom, um, are investing in carbon credits. I don't even know where they got that. So I thought this was really interesting, Brian, from the standpoint that it did give some catalysts, and certainly the meeting coming up in October, after the numbers come out, October 2nd, will be important and could be a good catalyst. But the market to reaction to autonomous robotaxis, certainly everybody thinks that's probably number one. But I thought there was a few more catalysts that they didn't think of. So what do you think about this particular list of catalysts in terms of a response from ChatGPT to the potential catalyst for Tesla?
So can you list off the ones that it had again?
So it's just the earnings report
Mhm.
in Q3,
Mhm.
the market reaction to robotaxi,
Mhm.
the broader rollout and monetization of full self-driving, FSD, which
Mhm.
is slightly different than robotaxi,
Yeah.
and the expansion into emerging markets. I'm sorry, there was two more. I didn't scroll down far enough. Scaling of energy storage deployments
Mhm.
and regulatory or tax credit developments in key markets, which
Mhm.
I don't expect anything.
Yeah.
Things could happen.
So the biggest catalysts that I can see are LSD 14 coming out in September,
Right.
right?
Didn't get mentioned.
Right. So that's a big thing because it's supposed to be safe and human. But it would take a month or two for that to fully realize how good it is because
Mhm.
it's already pretty good. So having no flaws in the driving for a day or a week doesn't isn't necessarily different from what we already have. But it will get smoother and do other things, so it will be discernibly different based upon the comparison of that. So that will happen, but so having it released on time, which they said it would be September, would be important. I'm fully expecting that to happen because they've been very accurate about saying we're going to release something next month, and then that does happen.
Right.
So that would be one thing that would have an effect. And um, Bradford Ferguson and Rebellion Air have been talking about that being something that would impact October, which sounds about right to me. That it would be people realize how good it is and impact October.
Hmm.
It would also impact the rollout and expansion of robotaxi in Austin and other places, removing of the driver. But depending upon how cautious they're going to be, that may take till November, December for that to be fully realized. But it will, for Q4, have a huge effect. In terms of the near-term catalysts, starting next week or the week after, we should start seeing pretty big numbers out of China on the weekly insurance number
Hmm.
because of the YL being there. They say they have 130, Grace Tao VP said they had 130,000 orders there.
Hmm.
Those numbers have not started showing up yet in the thing, but they said they were working overtime to deliver those cars.
Right.
So that means this next week number, Tuesday, could start seeing some numbers there. And also you'd have less um, hidden because August you're exporting to the other markets
Right.
around Asia, Japan, Australia, etc. And you would not see the weekly registration numbers come as pure as they would in August. So in August, if they have more cars made, more YLs on top of the Ys and the threes, then um, you can get to a pretty big number. You get to 25,000 maybe. So as that mounts up, maybe even 30,000 potentially. If you see some really good numbers like that, then it would be a clearly bullish indicator that we could add potentially 100,000 vehicles in Q4, right? So if we come in good, having 20,000, 30,000 more vehicles made in China, with their YL on top of the Ys with not much cannibalization, then we'd have a great August and then have a really good September with potentially 10,000 more cars per week coming from YL. And then that could last the entire Q4 with 130,000 vehicles and then some rollover effect. And that could get us to 550,000, 600,000 vehicles, which would be really big numbers. So October 2nd would be good. And then guidance or something like that. When they just haven't given us guidance, which is very annoying. But that could mean a 600,000 potential or at least 550, I think, for Q4, which would be positive.
Huge. Yeah.
Huge. Mhm.
They didn't mention Model Q. They didn't mention the smaller or whether it's smaller or whether it's just a stripped down model. They didn't mention that at all in their list of catalysts. I thought that was really shocking because
Yeah,
that's been talked about as a catalyst tons of places.
right. So if the um, China production is maxed out doing Ys and YLs and threes for a quarter,
Mhm.
maybe another quarter, then that would delay the compact Y that I'm expecting
Mhm.
and that I think most people are expecting. And to be a strip down, but also slightly smaller, 6 inches, 8 inches shorter. Um, so if I'm selling YLs, then I wouldn't want to sell YSs if I'm maxed
Right,
out,
right, right.
right? Um, but you could, there is a line available in Texas to do that, which if you felt your YS would sell better than the YL, plus you would price it so you would have margins similar on both.
Mhm.
Um, anyway, but a compact Y would be huge for Europe and for China.
Mhm.
Um, and it could let you maintain um, a run rate getting up to like over 3 million. But then the US side, which um, we talked about offline before, is that they're supposedly going for that full FFD robotaxi situation in the United States,
Right.
which if 14 is great and we're proving it out through September, October, November, then you could start making cyber caps. And the US market is the one with $2 to $3 per mile
Right.
for Uber and for Waymo. So then, and that's different from all the other markets. So the initial robotaxi market is a US one. So not as much in Europe. There's some places in Europe, but it's predominantly a US ride sharing market at that $2-ish level,
Mhm.
right? So then making hundreds of thousands of those and potentially millions of those vehicles is what you need for the United States to get to multiples of Uber, right? So that is something that they could start doing as early as December, more likely Q1, would
They
my
didn't
expectation.
they my number one catalyst, and I know I'm not necessarily joined by anybody else on this, believing this is the number one catalyst, but I think most people that I've talked to have said they think it's a catalyst, which is unsupervised driving.
Mm.
So not a mention of the potential for unsupervised driving, which Elon says will be before the end of the year, and which I believe, at least if people understand that it has happened. And I did a whole video, I think on Wednesday night, talking about how Elon should do his coast to coast trip, and that'll make people aware that there's an unsupervised version. I think
Mhm.
unsupervised would definitely impact the stock.
Right. And the if you get robotaxi and FSD to those points where it's like twice as good as human and you don't need to pay attention, you could remove the safety monitors and scaling to thousands of vehicles would be the indication that anyone who wants to get into the Tesla robotaxi business has to load up on vehicles, right? So that would be that indication. So those two things together means people need to get loans to get vehicles to buy a lot more, and the demand for vehicles will shoot up in a 1 to 3 month time frame as that kind of happens. Especially if they start pumping out like tens of thousands of cybercabs. If they pump
Right.
out tens of thousands of cybercabs, no safety monitor, FSD 14, and then rolling to FD 15, it's pretty much starting gun to like if you want to get into the business, you have to do it now. And that's for smaller people who like run 10 Airbnbs, or doing a Hertz, getting 100,000 vehicles. Uber would need to then, okay, I can't do a deal. I just have to buy the vehicle straight up.
Yep.
And they have to do it.
So then I don't know. There's another little product coming out. Oh yeah, it's not so little. It's a big product. It'll be the biggest Tesla product ever. It's called a Semi. They didn't bother to mention semi as a possible catalyst. Now, I think it'll be kind of like energy, where when it first rolled out, energy was kind of a minor catalyst until it got to 10% of sales. But with the semi, I think it's way more visible, way more sexy. Lots and lots and lots of human beings out there love semi trucks and think they're really cool. And so I think it's sexier than energy. But do you think when they actually start producing at scale in Reno, that this will be a catalytic?
So it depends how aggressively they roll it out. So if they're doing like right now, they're making like one a day or something like that in pilot lines.
Mhm.
And that has really not moved the needle at all. Some deals with Pepsi have not moved the needle at all. If they come out with a bit of a launch day and they say, okay, we're going to, I think, over 1,000 vehicles a month,
Mhm.
right? So doing like 30 to 50 vehicles a day, so 1,000, 2,000, that kind of thing. And they say Walmart or UPS, or some big customer has an order that we're working to fulfill, right? Or they um, do something with robot trucking, which I've talked about.
Yep.
That if you have we're going to do the platooning of it where I remove, I have three trucks, I remove two drivers from the back of this line of three trucks,
Mhm.
and then they share the driving of the front truck,
Right.
either with inside one truck or they just change leadership position as they go around. So there is team driving, and team driving is 10% of the US market, where you have like one person driving, another person sleeping in the cab, and then they switch off and then they do more driving than that. So there is this 10% of the US market that does this activity, which would work great for platooning and would give you one third, let you do um, the team driving at less cost
Yes.
because I have to still pay for the guy who's sleeping, right? He
Mhm.
has to be in the cab. But now I'm going to, instead of two drivers for one truck, I have three drivers for three trucks, right? And they can do more driving, right? Because they don't have to like stop after 10 hours or 11 hours. They can just keep going and going. So he
Yeah.
gets most of the benefits of robo trucking in a semi-supervised mode. So I would see that being a middle of 2026 thing.
Mhm.
Q2 or Q3, they come out with enough trucks and they do platooning at scale. 29, 24 states, whatever, you can go from East Coast to West Coast, South to
Sure.
North, even though you don't have all the states, you have most of the states that matter, and you can get routes through them north to south and east to west. You can go everywhere in the United States. And so then, and I think potentially that's a 20% market, even if they kind of stop there with just, I'm doing stuff with the lead truck supervised,
Mhm.
and it's half as good in terms of like the money. Instead of like $500,000, $600,000 for each robo truck, for platoon trucks, I can be at $200,000 to $250,000 versus $70,000 for a regular truck. So I can triple the money that I'm making. And if I do 50,000 trucks, like 1 year's full production of the vehicles, which I probably can get 25,000, 20,000 in 2026, and then my 50,000 in 2027, 20,000, 50,000, 70,000 vehicles. So by end of 2027, it's a pretty big number. 70,000 times $25,000, I'll be at like $20 billion, right? And
Right.
then this year I could be at, 4 to 5 billion. So adding $1 billion per quarter. So it would, but the path would be I'm going to get all the way there and then going to double it again when I go to full robo truck. So I can see it being a major, major deal um, toward the latter half of 2026.
So I could also imagine that we could see testing of the platooning idea uh, pretty early in 2026 because you could once again use Pepsi, who has these location to location that they do over and over and over again, where they're going between their bottling plant and the distribution center, or where they're going between the distribution center and a retailer. And they do this repeated over and over again. They could probably convince California or Texas or some state to let them test it on that one stretch.
Well, the
Uh,
thing is, one who had the most trucks, most semis, is Tesla itself.
yes,
Tesla has a few hundred trucks
right.
going, maybe a thousand, and they have to move cars, six cars on a carrier, eight cars on a carrier, and doing multiples of those, where they're kind of platooning around, is something that, moving them from Texas to California, Texas to Florida with long runs. I think they want to get a route between six, nine chargers, mega chargers between California and Texas. That was one of the first things they
Right.
wanted to do.
Right.
So they could be their own first customer on
Oh
that.
yeah, for sure. I've actually got that in some of my numbers in terms of profit for next year.
Right.
Another one that you could think of would be going from South Texas in Corpus Christi
Mhm.
and delivering the lithium byproduct or the lithium product
Mhm.
from there to the production lines in Austin. That
Right.
would be probably a really nice wide open roads
Yeah.
that could be
Nevada to Texas,
Nevada to
and
Texas is another
Nevada to
one.
Fremont.
Yep, yep.
Yes. So they have several out there. And then they also can just do these things in their example that they gave on a semi day about 5 or more years ago. They talked about doing this platooning around a regional center. So you're only going around 100 miles back and forth. So they can do that anywhere. If they can do it, Pepsi can do it. That would be the initial regional trucking option.
Okay, so then there was one other small thing that they didn't have on the list of potential catalysts, and I don't know, it was some humanoid robot thing. I don't
Hmm.
know. It's not a big product. There's no major sales potential there. I don't know. You think that Optimus should have made their list of long-term catalysts?
Definitely, it's the long-term catalyst. They delayed it while they get the version 3 of it set up. because they were going to go mass production with the version 2, but now they've said it's going to be version 3 and it's going to be amazing. So um, I'm anticipating that to be a mid to late 2026 thing where they'll have tens of thousands for it. And the major catalyst would be to integrate it in with factory production.
All right. So then I put the same information into Grok, and Grok said that the quarter 2025 earnings would be a short-term catalyst. Potential FSD licensing deals they added. The India showroom keeps popping up. I'm not sure that India showrooms are ever going to be a catalyst. The Cyber Cab unveil, they added that one in. They have the Model Y refresh delivery ramp. They've got energy storage margin expansion from Shanghai. They have affordable, the long term, they have affordable model production starting in first half of 2026. They have the unsupervised FSD rollout. That would be on my list, right? They got
Yeah,
that.
that's the main one. Yeah.
Okay. Optimus sales to external customers in 2026. They have that one. And then they have Cybercab and semi mass production. So in this case, I think that given exactly the same prompt, I think Grok did a ton better job
Mhm.
than the Grok 5 did.
GPT-5.
GPT-5, I'm sorry, GPT-5. What did I say? Yeah, GPT-5. But however, at the end of the day, one of the reasons I did this whole thing and wanted to have this program is this is okay. This is not bad.
Mhm.
If you're managing 50 companies in your portfolio and you want to just kind of be as smart as you can be without spending a lot of time, it's not bad.
Right.
But boy, this does not anywhere come close to the information arbitrage that we do on your channel, on my channel,
Mhm.
the rest of the YouTubers, all the stuff that happens on X in
Mhm.
terms of the details of these kinds of things that are coming up, which brings me to the whole subject of AI. Again,
Mhm.
back we started with this, and how much the human is still going to be hugely responsible for doing this guy called it the proctoring
Mhm.
to do the testing of the information that comes off of these models.
Mhm.
I don't think that goes away anytime soon.
I think it needs to have continual learning and more powerful agents. So having the memory, like it could do this as, okay, here's what I think is going to be the situation, right? But we can take that information, digest it, and then consider, well, if number 2 and number 5 were true, then this would start happening, or we would start seeing this. You could start running tests against it, which would be like forking off a bunch of agent tasks to like, let's dig into this, let's verify, and let's build on top, right? So it doesn't do enough building on top. Even if you take it, repackage it, and shove it back in to say, build on top of this, what would I verify, and that kind of stuff. So the lack of memory, the fact that it can't integrate what it thought about and then stack on top that well, right? That's where it's a problem. But they are working towards solving that. So that would be something that I would see, potentially, say, Rock 5 by the end of the year
Wow,
might
by
get
the
to
end
that,
of the
right?
year. Wow.
So, but then it's whoever else can do it because it's a clear goal of one, continual learning and
Yep.
be able to have memory, dynamic memory
Right.
to feed back, to do that, to build upon it. Not just I take it, I shove it
Yeah.
out once,
Yeah.
I can maybe do it a bit again, but not really not either understand it or be able to really have the new information as a thing that I'm going to be continue to build upon.
Okay. All right. So that was the main thing I wanted to cover. I'm thinking, well, let's cut this off right now, Brian. Let's do a separate show on
Yep.
some of the other subject matters that you and I wanted to talk about. So
Sure.
let's end this one, Brian. As always, of
Okay.
course, I love having you on my show,
Yep.
and to all of you out there, it's been great talking to you.